The new heroes of March are here, and it looks like we're getting Fire Emblem 1. Our first unit of the banner is going to be Attuned Caeda. That's right, we're actually starting off with an Attuned hero, and I don't know about you, but I absolutely thought this was Lucina. Either way, let's jump into her preference weapon, Pure Wing Spear. So essentially what this has is effective against armored and cav units. You get slang, and that's the turn you're going to get invisible attack speed +6. You also get the effect where you can warp 2 allies within 2 spaces adjacent to them, and you'll be able to hand this out to allies as well. And then if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, you'll get a ton of stats based off the allies within 3 spaces up to 14. You get damage reduction halving, you'll get 30% damage reduction yourself, and then also whenever you deal damage, you'll heal X HP, where X is 14 if the foe is cavalry or armory, or 7 otherwise. We then have a new type of distant counter and D bonus doubler, which is a hilarious name. And essentially what this does is you get attack speed, defense, and res +X, where it's based off the visible bonus either on the unit or an ally within few spaces. So essentially this is a new form of distant counter, and in some ways this is more powerful than Prime as you can get more stats. It does require you to have obviously a visible bonus on yourself or an ally, which Caeda does provide to an extent. And it does have some ways to get around low obviously because it can also consider allies as well. The major problem with this is that you do have to have an ally within 2 spaces, which can be problematic against some units like Soniki in particular, as she looks at those visible debuffs between not only the unit she's attacking, but any allies within 2 spaces as well. So that is something to consider. We then have her new preference B skill, Believe in Love, ? This has a phantom speed effect built into it. You also get speed, defense, and attack -5 on the foe during combat. And then you're going to get an Omni Unity effect as well, which is quite powerful. And then if her speed is greater than the foe speed, she can get up to 50% damage reduction based off her speed, comparing the 2 stats. And then if the foe is armored or cavalry, she gets an additional amount of damage reduction based off X, where X is the highest total bonuses among herself and allies within 2 spaces. And it does work with AoE specials. And then if the foe is not armored or cavalry, you'll get just 40% normal damage reduction, which is Brave. So this is really, really powerful, obviously. This just has a ton of effects in it. You're getting your phantom speed, right? You're getting your stats. You're getting a unity effect, so you're getting even more stats, which is absolutely nuts. And then you're even getting 50% damage reduction, like normal, like a speed-based damage reduction. But you're also getting flat damage reduction as well. And that flat damage reduction is based off bonuses. So you can get up to 24 typically, right? Typically you'll have visible of +6 to all stats. You can technically get higher than that, but typically it's going to be 6. And then also, if it's not cavalry or armored, you're going to get the normal 40% additional damage reduction as well, which is Brave. This is a very, very powerful effect, right? Obviously she is just stacking a ton of damage reduction, a ridiculous amount. And because she's getting normal damage reduction, which can be pierced, but also flat damage reduction, that is very strong. Now the flat damage reduction is only against armored and cavalry heroes, which is pretty interesting. It makes sense for cavalry just because they're running around like crazy and just going absolutely insane. For armored, I'm guessing it's because they want to have a soft counter to Winter Elgard. But other than that, your infantry units and your flying units still will be able to pierce through the damage reduction of Caeda, as it is just a normal 40%. We also then have Defense Res Pledge, so I'm glad to see there's more variants of Pledge being added to the game. Defense Res is kind of an interesting option. It works well on Caeda, as she already provides the attack and speed buff, but it's not exactly the most desirable one. I think most people want attack defense or attack res, but I'm glad to see it in the game. And then lastly, we have her attuned skill, Guard Echo. And what this essentially does is it gives you Guard. Unlike Guard 3 though, it has the HP condition of 25%, which is very nice, but it also gives you 20% damage reduction, and it is Brave, meaning once again, this is just a very powerful Echo skill for tanks who don't have PRF skills. Okay, so when it comes to roles, what does Caeda really want to do? Caeda is mostly a tank. She is a support in some extent, but mostly she's going to be tanking. When it comes to what game mode she's going to be good in, I think she's going to be really good in Ether Raid's offense, and I could also see her being used in summoner duels as a raid boss as well, and then of course arena because she is infantry, so she'll be scoring pretty well. When it comes to her effectiveness as a tank, I think she is going to be very powerful, as she does have lots of sources of damage reduction, so she's going to be able to stack a ton of damage reduction. She also has really solid healing, which means that she will be able to take that damage and then heal it back up. And she even has the Omni Unity effect, which kind of covers her weakness to panic, right? Because if they do panic her, she ends up getting more stats. And then you can essentially get your visible bonus effects from your allies instead of Caeda herself. So I think this is overall a very powerful Omni tank. How good is she going to be compared to the best Omni tanks we currently have, which are Legendary Male Lear and Altina? I think she's definitely going to be up there for sure. I'm going to have to test her out to see just how powerful all these effects are, because there is so many effects and they're overlapping in so many ways. The one major thing I am afraid of is that she's probably not gonna have the best resistance stat, and she has no way to like stop burn damage, right? Like the burn damage we see from like Gold Egg, like in this representation, or like more famously from like Duo Leon or Legendary Camilla. That burn damage is really what's making it difficult to tank nowadays, and so I think that might be her biggest weakness, but we'll have to do some testing to really make sure that's the case or not. Our second new hero is going to be Yuliya, and she is the staff demote. She does come with Sunlight Plus, which at start of turn she'll inflict guard on the nearest foe within 5 spaces of herself, and foes within 2 spaces of those foes, equipped with a skill that can trigger Savior. And then also for HP granted equal to 25%, she get attack speed plus 5 during combat, and inflict res minus X on the foe during combat, where X equals the number of bonus and penalty effects active on foe, times 4, max of 16. So obviously this is a pretty powerful inheritable staff, and it offers some really nice powerful support. When it comes to like the fodder, speed res finish 3 is nice. I really wish this was attack speed finish instead, but you know, at least this is a start, right? Hopefully this means that in the future we will be getting attack speed finish and we can get some better bridge for our fodder. But for right now, this is pretty solid. I don't really expect Yuliya to do much, as healers are not in the best position right now, and honestly, like without a preference weapon, you just really cannot shine, so glad to see she's in the game, but let's move on to our next hero. Our third hero looks like it's going to be Arlen, another colorless infantry mage. Okay, so we have Light Burst Tome. This has Slang, and at the start of turn, he's going to give out a visible attack, speed, and defense plus 6 to himself and allies within 2 spaces, and also the terrain ignoring effect, which is very powerful. We've seen this on Katie and Lynn, and it has put in massive work. Now, obviously, she is a Cav, so it works a little bit better on her, in my opinion, but it is very good effect overall. And then also, if his HP is greater than 25%, and he has an offensive special, he's going to grant special cooldown cap -1 before his first attack during combat. And then also, he'll get attack speed and res minus X on the foe during combat, where it's 16 minus the foe's special cooldown times 2, a minimum of 8. So just some stats there as well. And then finally, he's going to get 30% damage reduction against the foe's first attack, and then he'll have like an Ice Mirror effect where his next attack will deal damage equal to the total damage reduced, and then he'll finally heal 7 HP after combat. We then have a C bonus doubler, so this is essentially the same thing we saw on Caeda, but instead of it being distant counter, this is now close counter. And lastly, attack res tempo 4. So overall, what it seems is that Arlen wants to be like a mage tank, right? Like he wants to be able to go in, take hits, heal them up, reflect damage back at the foe. I think overall this unit like has some interesting stuff going for him, and he definitely won't be bad, but I don't really expect to see much of him. Unfortunately, melee mages aren't all that powerful at the moment. It's like very difficult to survive nukes nowadays, and mages have less BST, and typically they don't have access to like all defensive effects you need, like you know, like Vital Astra, Godlike Reflexes, or any defensive special really. So it really can hold them back quite a bit. I think he'll be an interesting unit to play with, but I don't really expect to see him anywhere in the meta. When it comes to game modes, he could probably be using like Aetherhead's offense as like an Omni tank with a lot of support, but even then I probably wouldn't like choose him over other Omni tanks, because Omni tanks are not in the best spot, and I think Mage Omni tanks are even in a worse spot. So overall, in my opinion, it's a bit of a skip here. And our final new hero is going to be Ascended Merric. We have his preference weapon, Tender Excalibur. Okay, and essentially what this has is it's going to have Slang, it's going to have effect against flying, you're going to get a ton of stats, you're going to get all stats plus 5, and then you get an additional attack and speed plus X, where it will equal 9, but it actually gets weaker if your allies have less than 40% HP. You're going to get full no follow-up, you're going to get 30% damage reduction against the foe's first attack, and it's going to be Brave, once again, like normal now. And then also if you have an offensive special, you'll get special cooldown cap -1 before your first attack, and special cooldown cap -1 before your first follow-up attack. So pretty interesting there, as it will help him like continually spam specials, especially as a cavalry unit. We then have a new preference special, Sacred Wind. This is going to boost damage by 40% of his speed, and also neutralize damage reduction completely. And then after combat, if his special triggered, he'll heal 20 HP to himself and all allies, and grant cancel 1 to himself as well. We then have a new B skill, Steel Speed Res 3. This is going to inflict speed and res -3 on the foe, and an additional penalty to the foe's speed and res equals 6 minus the current penalty on each of those stats during combat. So essentially this is going to be like similar to the Seal Attack 4 we got like last year, right? But now it's going to have like 2 stats instead of 1. So we'll also have like the guard effect if they already have like a penalty on them. And then also you'll do a speed and res -6 debuff after combat. And then lastly we have a sight attack speed. Okay, when it comes to roles, what does Merric really want to do? Merric is a nuke first and foremost. He does offer some healing support, which is pretty cool, very similar to his kit self, but other than that, he's pretty much just a nuke. That is what he's going to be focusing on. When it comes to game modes, he could be really good in like Aetherhead's defense, like on a cav line, and it's possible that he's pretty good on like a cav line in SD as well, as they are quite dominant. Other than that, I don't really see a place for him all that much, but Cavs are in a pretty good spot, so I'm sure if you're a big Merric fan, you can find a place to use him. When it comes to his overall power, I don't think Merric's all that strong. He definitely can spam specials, which is good, which means that he can reliably get through damage reduction pretty easily, considering that his special ignores DER, but when you compare him to like a lot of other units, I think that he might fall a little bit short. And the reason for that is that he's really only offering nuking capability. The healing really doesn't come into play all that much in like most situations. And so when you have to compare him to his contemporaries like Duo Sonic or Duo Leon, I don't think he really matches up to either of them. Duo Sonic can nuke really hard and has a brave attack, which means that a lot of times you kill the opponent before they even get a chance to attack you. Unlike that, Merric will get hit back, which means if they have DR piercing, they're probably going to kill him on the retaliation. And unlike that, Duo Leon, on the other hand, has a ton of burn damage in his weapon, meaning that a lot of times he'll burn you and then kill you before you get a chance to hit him. And he also has a ton of detrimental effects that I'm sure you're aware of, like ending everybody's turn. And so when it comes to comparing Merric to either of those two units, I just don't see his value being higher than either of them. This isn't saying that he's a bad unit by any means, I just don't think he's going to be the top tier of Cav nukes that we currently have. And believe me, they're kind of ridiculous, so I'm happy to see like one that is good, but not quite as like damning and toxic. Okay, let's move on to the final part of the video, should you pool? When it comes to pros, if either of these units are your favorites, then definitely pull for them. They are good units overall, but I don't think that they're going to be the most powerful units, to be completely honest. There is some really good fodder here as well, so if you need like the new Pledge, or if you want like the new Echo Guard skill, which is very good if you're using like a Omnitank who doesn't have a preference skill, like Felix, or like anyone using like an arcane weapon, then that would be a great option as well. The big reason for me to pull personally is a Floret. I am so desperate for Florets, that is a reason for me to pull at this point, but for a lot of people, I don't think that is the case. When it comes to cons, I think this banner overall isn't that powerful. There is definitely the good units on it, but I don't think they're going to be like the top of the meta by any means, and the fodder they offer is really cool and powerful in some ways, but I don't think it's going to be like game-defining fodder, so you definitely don't need to pull for it. We also have a Hero Rises coming up very, very soon, like within a week. So if you're going to be pulling on that banner, I would definitely save orbs for Hero Rises, as I think you'll get more value from that banner than you can get from this banner. And then finally, the big thing is that we're getting a new Emblem ring at the end of this month. And these Emblem rings have proven to be ridiculously powerful and versatile. They are like some of the most valuable things you can have for your account. So I would definitely recommend having orbs, right? So you really want orbs for Hero Rises and that banner at the end of the month, which is difficult to do. So I think if you have a chance to skip, you should, and I think this banner overall is a skip. So unless you're a massive FE1 fan and these are your favorites, I would skip this banner. But now I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this banner? What are you excited about? Do you think these units can have any part in the meta, or are they just too weak? Do you think Caeda is going to be the new premier Omnitank, or do you think that she'll fall a little bit short? I'd love to hear about it, so make sure to drop a comment down below. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.